This is the Becoming You podcast. I'm going to talk about why my focus has changed dramatically on my role as a wife and a mother. Yes, I am still a business owner, but how it has been a paradigm shift in the last few months. This real softening into my feminine energy. And just like with how I am parenting and how I am wifing and co-parenting, a lot of this started intellectually in my head. And I resisted it, or I knew I needed to make changes, but I wasn't really ready to. And I feel like I am, like the light is at the end of the tunnel and I can feel it. I'm like almost on the other side. We are back for season 7. I feel like I want to laugh, I want to cry, and I want to reach through, I guess, the microphone or the camera or the YouTube or wherever you're listening or watching this and just say, welcome back. This feels significant personally, spiritually. I turned 44 in this hiatus that I've been on for a while. And 44, not just because it's 2 4s, but I found out it was my astrological half-life. Now, I will tell you, I am determined to live much, much longer than 88. I will meet my grandkids, and I was not a young mom, but it feels significant. And whether it's because I also was born on a leap year, and this is my 11th leap year, or whether it's because I have just made massive changes in the last few months, I feel like there's a very different energy coming in. And I want to share that with you. I want to share what you can expect as you tune in to Becoming You, and a little bit about what's just going on in my life and the person I am becoming, which, of course, this is the Becoming You podcast. A few things before we dive in. I'm going to talk about why my focus has changed dramatically on my role as a wife and a mother. Yes, I am still a business owner, but how it has been a paradigm shift in the last few months. I will say the last few months, it's felt like it's feeling good, but it's been longer than that coming. And the discomfort happened first. This real softening into my feminine energy. And just like with how I am parenting and how I am wifing and co-parenting, a lot of this started intellectually in my head and I resisted it, or I knew I needed to make changes, but I wasn't really ready to. And I feel like I am like the light is at the end of the tunnel and I can feel it. I'm like almost on the other side. This isn't just making a huge cut in the hours I spend working both in my business and on my business. In fact, I should say my business is, because I'm a multi-passionate Enneagram 7, and I've always got a few things going on. Though I will say I'm working to wear less hats than before. And why my environment, if you notice, my backdrop looks very different than it looked in season 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Because I am no longer in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley. I've gone from the valley to the village, and I'm in the village of Carmel-by-the-Sea, which is a literal dream place. It is like a fairy tale, living here, visiting here. And why we made this move, because I really feel that our environment is stronger than our willpower. And how all of these changes, the location, my home, my energy, my nervous system, why I've made them. So let's dive in into this evolution. And that's really what it is, right? It's an evolution. And if you're listening to this and you're feeling this, you're feeling either like you're in the midst of a transition, or you are being pulled towards something, or you're running away from something, which we will also talk about. I have just felt this big evolution. And I think sometimes we, especially if you're an entrepreneur or if you're just growth focused, which I know you are if you're listening to this podcast, we are always constantly evolving. But there are, just like when we're kids, there's growth spurts that we go through. And I have gone through a massive one. I mean, I will not say I stopped growing, but I feel like this is like the, freshman year of high school growth spurt. But the growth is about going deeper and more inwards versus wider and more outwards. And I just have to say, for those of you that have been here from the beginning, or maybe you've found me at some point in the last 6 years since I started this podcast, actually 5.5, because I started the week before my daughter was born, as I was gasping for breath doing my first episodes. But if you've been here for part of this journey, you've been along for it. You've seen this change. You've heard it. You've hopefully felt it from, being a mom of 1 to a mom of 2, from moving into ironically, the little cottage we were in into our big dream home that we spent years to design and to build. And, through some of the loss that happened and the challenges, and now ironically moving back by choice into this sweet little beach cottage. But it has been a process, and you've been here for it. And if you're new and you're just joining, here's the thing. You can go back if you want. You absolutely can. But what I will tell you is I'm only looking backwards to understand where I've came from and to understand myself, not to live in the past, but to help me understand better where I'm going. And so if you are joining us and you're brand new and you've heard about this, you don't need to go backwards, because I promise you the best of what I have shared in the past will come back, but in a different evolution of who I am now, with more depth, more understanding, more authenticity, more vulnerability, all of that. I'm bringing it back. It's like, this is like the best of the best. It's like, I was going to say Taylor Swift puts out like an album every single, year that's the best of the best. But it's like, if you were just going to her Eras concert, there's going to be like one or two songs, the best of the best. And that's what I'm going to bring you here in season 7 and beyond in this pivot. And this pivot is with purpose, right? Ironically, I think it was in 2020, it came out in 2021. I did my very first collaborative book 4 years ago. Ironically, another leap year, 2020, another year that a lot happened. And that book was about, the pivot that we were going through with the pandemic. But right now, it's about the pivot I've not just made in my life, but it's also about the pivot I energetically feel with every human being that I'm close to. It's about the pivot that all of my clients who are all women in business, whether they're, most of them are, I would say, further along in business. Most of them are at, a few $100,000 to a few $1 million a year in revenue. And it's what I've seen and felt and heard in their lives as well. It's all part of this big trajectory. And I'm taking you along for the ride. And I will be sharing, you're going to hear this, I think it's the next episode, about this concept of a big life. But this is where a lot of this pivot, this shift has been. For me, the big life was like expansive, again, Enneagram 7, I'm the visionary, the enthusiast. It wasn't, I should say, typically wasn't about being big for the award or the prize, to like outdo anybody. Like I definitely am personally competitive at more, and like the how far can I go versus I have to beat someone. That's not usually my energy unless I'm not in my highest and best self or I'm triggered. And I really try to stay out of that space. But it's really about, in the past, my life was about like, what can I do? How far can I go? And I've gotten a big clarification on what big means. I'm going to be sharing that with you in a future episode, but it's realizing that big doesn't have to mean physically big. So these changes to my life, my business, my location of where we live, where we call home, like they all contribute to this bigger, but very, very differently designed life. And like I said, going deeper, right? Going deeper instead of wider in myself, in my family, in my community, in my role in my family, in my energy, and in my environment. I mean, I am podcasting out of my bedroom / office / bathroom. It has been many years since I've done that. I mean, I had my she shed, and I will say, still miss the light in it, but weirdly, the sound here is better. And I think it's because the energy is better. And I've very intentionally removed the parts of my life over the last 6 months that were negatively affecting my energy, my schedule, or my nervous system. And I promise to give you all of the tools and the exercises, not in this podcast because it would be an hour, but I will be bringing all of those to you. And in fact, you could check the show note links for something called the Balanced Blueprint. I think that's the name of it, the Balanced Blueprint. And I will give it the disclaimer that I don't really believe balance exists. I think it's harmony, and the harmony is constantly changing. It's like the AI app Endel, it's Endel, which is one I use. That app creates soundscapes based upon literally where you are, the temperature, the humidity, like, and you can choose, like, am I focusing? Am I resting? Am I relaxing? Like, what is my focus right now? And that's what I feel I've done in my life. And that is what the Balanced Blueprint is about having a tool that you can rebalance, refocus, audit your obligations, focus on your creativity, your play, your restoration, and your time and your habits, right? Because that's what makes our results. And I used to sell that for $111, and I've now decided I'm giving it away for free. So you can go get that, or you can go to my website, RebeccaCafiero.com, and you can grab the Balance Blueprint. But that is yours, and I hope that you love it. And it creates what it's created in my life, which is safety, and not in a constriction way, a safety to actually expand in the right ways, a safety to be vulnerable, a safety to be able to breathe. Because often we just literally don't have the space or the calm to be able to just fully breathe in our body. So why vulnerability? And the reason I mention that is, I don't know if it comes from my journalism degree and my time working as a reporter at a daily paper, but I have really struggled with vulnerability forever. And I think it's part of having it maybe used against me. And I think like many of us have when we were young and needing to heal from that. I think it's part of, for my journalism career, of liking to like write something up and have the polished version and not wanting to share my rough draft, which is what it is when you're sharing as you're going through something. Or if it's just that I like to be, I'm very open, but there's a difference between like showing people what's going on and actually letting them kind of behind the glass wall, right? And so this season, I am committing and pledging to you and to myself to really be sharing more real time instead of reporting the fully processed lesson. And you'll get those as well. And this new perspective, as I shared about revisiting past topics with this new lens, because that's crucial to our ongoing growth, right? It's crucial to reflecting where we're coming from now. And I've experienced that in meditation. I've experienced that in plant medicine. Like, hello, vulnerability. We're going to talk about plant medicine. Because yes, I have dived into using different tools to get different results. But you're going to see more of that. And then more of the messy middle, more of the butterfly in the cocoon season when it's like, oh, this isn't fully formed. But you know what? Like, let's go through that together. Because none of us are arrived and none of us have it all figured out. But I will tell you, being in community, being in conversation, being in collaboration, you get there so much faster and with so much more ease and joy. And this is your invitation to join me in that. Join me in this journey, right? I promise, I commit that this season is going to be full of real-time insights and moments, and we're going to grow together, right? We're going to grow together as we get clear on who we are, as we grow our discernment tools. And will that grow your business if you have one? Absolutely. And it will also help you navigate not focusing on the things that aren't meant for you. And if you're navigating change, a decision, maybe you're just navigating, hey, I'm in a spot that doesn't feel good and I want to know how to get out of it. I've got that for you. In fact, I've got it in the next couple of episodes. As always, if you love this episode or another one, I would be so grateful if you would subscribe, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, I don't know, click wherever that button is and hit follow and share. Right? I put this out there because I hope and intend and wish that it will benefit you. And passing that forward is just sharing good energy. So thank you for being part of my growth, my world, my life. And I can't wait to see you and hear you, or at least I can't wait to talk to you in our next episode.